Good evening, students. So today we will see today's lecture is dedicatedly of your revision lecture for your unit 1 and unit 2, because tomorrow you have your UT first, right? So if you see, whenever the examination pattern, right, so it will be a different one now. So if you compare with the theoretical paper, right, so MCQs is comparatively tough with respect to the your theoretical paper, right, because in theory you can write something which are relevant to your diagrams and all that things, right, with the reference to that particular diagrams. Okay, and as per our subject is concerned, right, so in enterprise network design, so design frameworks, the topologies and all that things are in a huge amount of, right. So with respect to this particular subject, you need to see about the definitions, then your models, right, then the in diagrams what are the different layers are there, what are their functionalities and all that things, right. So if you see in syllabus, right, so the prerequisite, so there is no question on the prerequisite in tomorrow's test. So we are just considering the module first and the module second, right. And in this we will I will talk about today about what can be the question can be formed in these particular chapters, right. Means because in each and every lines we can form a question, right, but with specifically what are the different topics which are really important with respect to your theoretically as well as with respect to your MCQs, right. So that I will discuss in today's lecture, right. So if you see in module first, so they are divided into the 6 part, right. So SONA architecture, methodologies, requirements, characterizing, top-down approach and implementation process, right. So we'll see in the first thing, the IT evolution, right, so how evolution of network can be happen. So there are 4 evolution phases, right, so that you need to keep in mind, right. The question may be formed with respect to this, right. Then if you see for each and every phases, right, the integrated transport services, right, how the intelligence can be integrated into the network, right. So what are the different phases, so the question can be formed on this also. Then Cisco SONA framework, right, so this is very much important with respect to any kind of the pattern of your examination if you consider, right. So there are 4 layers, which layer having which of the different components, right, so that also you need to see. Okay, so the question can be formed on each of the layers, right, may be formed on each of the layers, right, and what are the different functionality of each layers, right. So that can be also you must know, right, with respect to the MCQs and all that things, right, because if you see in here itself, right, the network infrastructure services, right, so all these services we already seen in your chapter number 2, right, security service, storage service, mobility service and all this in depth, right. But if you consider with respect to your SONA framework, so that will be included in this your second layer, right, that is interactive service layer, right. So in this way you need to study all these components. Okay, and if you see the detailed architecture of the SONA, right, so we already studied in chapter 2. There are some functional areas with respect to this particular infrastructure layer, right. For example, this campus, branch, data center, enterprise edge, WAN and MAN, teleworker and all that things, right. So these are a part of your network infrastructure. Then if you consider this interactive service layer, so it will also having some different services like I just now mentioned, security, mobility, storage and all that things, right. So the question can be formed in each of the layers, each of the services as well, right, on each of the function areas as well, right. So you need to know each and everything of your SONA architecture components, right. For example, the if I consider the network infrastructure layer, right, the question may be asked on this particular enterprise edge only. Okay, so what are the different sub modules in this enterprise age, that also you must know, right? What are the different modules on this particular campus network, that you must know, right? What is the functionality of this particular mobility service, that you know, right? Compute service means what, identity service means what, right? So likewise the question may be formed on on each of the services, each of the components, right? Then next is the benefits of the sonar, right? So what are the different benefits of the sonar? So whether for example so and so is a functionality of sonar or not, yes or no, or these performance, availability, scalability is the functionality, but which is not a functionality, right? Sorry, which is not a benefit of this particular sonar, right? That can be a question, right? So in this way the question can be formed. Then next one is network design methodology, right? So PPDIOO model means what, right? So what is the functionality of prepare phase, what is the functionality of design phase, right? So the question can be arises on this particular diagram as well. For example, from after operation phase, which phase is carried out, right? And those examples are given. So answer is optimized, right? So in that way the question may be formed, okay, in this particular topic as well. Then what are the different benefits of this particular network designing, right? So in options, these can be benefits, right? Likewise the question can be formed, okay. Then the next one is your identifying your this one customer requirements, right? So what do you mean by RFP, what do you mean by RFI, right? Then what are the different phase which will be included in this extracting initial requirements, right? So these are the 4 steps, right? So which is not a step in this particular extraction of customer requirement, that can be a question, right? Then next one is in on this particular diagram also, right? So what are the different organizational goals are there, what are the different technical goals are there, right? As well as the constraints, right? What are the different organizational constraints, what are the different technical constraints, right? How this particular document can be formed with the help of all these components, right? So this kind of the question may be formed, okay. So each and every thing you must know about each and every component, right? Each and every functionality of this particular thing, right? For example, if you consider in this I will show you, yes, organizational constraint, right? So for example I am telling you what financial and timing elements must be considered, right? So this question is maybe belongs to which type of the component, right? It may be organizational constraint, it may be organizational goal, technical goal, or technical constraint, right? So it must be on a organizational constraint, right? So that is also one way to form a questions, right? So after that what are the different constraints on organization, right? For example, budget is a organization constraint, right? The personal that means training and all that thing, it is again a organizational constraints. Then policy is again organizational constraint, schedule is again organizational constraint, right? So which one is not a organizational constraint, right? So that can be a question, right? So likewise on technical also, the improve network performance is a goal, to decrease expectation downtime is a goal, right? To improve security of a network is a goal, right? So which is not a goal, that can be a question, right? So for that you must know all these things, okay. What are the goals, okay? So what is not goal, for that you must know what are the existing goals, right? And for that each and every concept you must know, okay. So all these concepts we have already covered, okay. So that you need to see in our lectures and in our notes as well, right? Then next one is your characterizing the existing network, right? So in that also if you see how the network how the inputs can be taken from the customers, right? So the first step is the customer input, then network audit, then the traffic analysis, right? So the question maybe arises that which is not, right? So likewise if customer input is there, then what requirement you are gathering in the customer input, right? So for example network topology diagram you can get, the internet device list you can get, right? So likewise some question can be formed, okay. And then yes, then we will move forward to this particular audit information sources, right? So what are the different steps under this, Okay, the existing documentation there, existing tools can be used, any new tools can be used to gather or information from this particular existing network, right? So these steps can be used to form a question, right? Then what are the different tools? Hmm? This is nothing but the manual commands for getting the required information with respect to the any kind of the existing network, right? So that can be a question, right? Then this is the manual one, and these are the some tools, right? So which tool is used for which purpose, right? So that can be a question, as for example this cactia, then net mri, right? So what is the functionality of all these tools, why they are using, right? And that can be a question. Then this interactive traffic analysis process, right? How the traffic can be analyzed by this network designer, right? So these are the process. So with respect to this also maybe the question asked. Then how the analysis of traffic can be done with the help of different tools. So nbar is a tool, then some cactia tool is there, sniper, wireshark we are using, right? So with respect to that, netflow is there, right? So which will be useful for to identifying the flow within the network, right? That is the traffic, right? So that can be a question. Then next is your these tools is we are over. Then yes, then the summary report. So what are the part of this particular summary report will be there, right? So features whatever will be required, that will be there. Then possible drawback is there. Then if you see in this particular diagram, the sample of summary report is given already, right? So what are the different requirements which are be there in the summary report, that also may be the question, right? For example, if you consider this, the requirement is there, identified problem is there, recommended action is there, right? So which of the following is not an part of this particular summary report, that can be a question, right? So likewise the question can be found on each and every topic, right? So you need to go through the each and every topic of this particular chapters, right? So I am just giving you the overview of the this particular chapter. So how the question can be formed, right? The how and what are the different topics you need to study, right? What are the main topics are there, what is from that particular topic on which you need to give the concentration, right? So that I am telling you. Okay. Then yes, the next one is the top down approach, right? Then how in top down approach the osi layer models will be seen, right? So in top down approach we are considering first the upper layers, right? From the application layer, presentation layer, and likewise, right, to the physical layer, right? But opposite to top down approach, that is bottom up approach. So from physical layer to application layer we are use this particular approach, right? Then what is the disadvantages of top down approach, what is the disadvantages of bottom up approach, and which approach is good for any kind of the network design, or which kind of approach is following. So answer is your top down approach, right? So likewise the question can be formed on this. Okay. Then what is the example of this particular top down design approach, right? So we already seen this particular example for IP telephony. So that is in this we have got then various solutions, right, for the for designing the IP telephony, right? But we need to choose only one that will be correct or suitable for our organization, right? So how we are going to see this, choose this? So with the help of decision tables, right, we are going to select any one topology for our particular organization, right? So decision table comes into the picture, right? So in decision table, what are the different steps are there? So the steps are already given here, so you just go through it. This also may be a question. Then this is one example we are covered in our lecture as well, right? There are some routing protocol related information is there, and some required network parameters is there. Then you need to just compare with this particular protocols, so which are best suited for your required network parameters, and accordingly you need to choose the which routing protocol is best suited, right? So this is nothing but your decision table, right? So likewise you need to check this. Then different tools, right? So there are a different network designing tools are there: simulation test, build, prototype, network modeling, strategy analysis, decision tables. All these are nothing but the network designing tools which will be uses for your any kind of the designing network, right? So if you go through the diagrams, right, so you will get and more picture, right? So always go through the diagram first, right, and then start with the their subtopics, right? For example, if I am seeing here network design tools, then just go with the one by one. For example, network modeling first, then strategic analysis, then decision tables, build prototype, simulate and test, right? So accordingly go with one by one, right? Then after that we need to again design the document, right? And after that the last one is the design implementation phase. So before design implementation, which step is there, right? So obviously the design phase is there, and after design the implementation part will be there, right? So that may be a question. Okay, so this is I think all about your chapter number 1. Okay, and for now chapter number 2, we have only 4 subtopics, but these topics are very much lengthy, right? So very much are there to study in this particular chapter. So first of all we will see the network hierarchy, right? So obviously you know in network hierarchy there are 3 hierarchical network models we have already seen, right? And you must know the there are various functionality of it, right? For example, if you consider this core layer, distribution layer and access layer, right? So these 3 layers are there in hierarchical layer, right? A hierarchical model. So what is the functionality of core layer? So it will be nothing but your high speed switching. What is the functionality of this distribution layer? So it will be policy based connectivity. What is the functionality of your access layer? So it will be local and remote work group access, right? So these are nothing but the functionality of this particular each of the layers, right? So you must know in this particular detail, right? And how it can be represented with the help of sample that is also given in this particular diagram. So you just go through it, okay? And I have listed here the different functionality of each and every layer and role also, so you just go through it, okay? The question can be asked in on this particular hierarchical layer model, maybe that will be covers in your the functionality, how it can be used, and how what are the different features under that that can be beneficial to that network connectivity, right? So this is one important topic. Then after layers, yes, that then the hierarchical routing in the WAN, right? So in WAN, how this particular 3 layers we are using, right? So that also we have explained in one of our lecture, right? So this particular nothing but the access layer, these distribution layers, and this network to network packet transfer with the help of this particular core layer, which having the high speed switching will be take place into this particular scenario, right? So this is the WAN network. Then we have this modular network design. In that how this enterprise network can build, right, with the help of the Cisco, right? So that's why the Cisco network Cisco framework, Sona framework again comes into the picture, right? Which having different functional areas what we have seen in this particular network infrastructure layer. So these 6 layers are 6 functional areas are there, right? So question may be asked like that, how many functional areas are there in network infrastructure layer, right? And the question may be asked like that, so for example, what are the names of the this particular functional areas, or which is not a functional area in the enterprise network, right? Like this, likewise, okay? And after that we will see each and every this particular components, right? So what what there are different sub modules are there in each and every modules here, right? For example, enterprise campus, if we consider, if you go in below diagram, right? So enterprise campus which undergoes into access, distribution, campus, right, and server farm as well. Then enterprise edge is undergoes into e-commerce, internet connectivity, remote WAN, man, service provider undergoes into ISP, AB, PSTN, frame, relay, ATM, right? So likewise the question can be asked, so what are the different sub modules are there under this enterprise edge? What are the different sub modules are there under this service provider, right? and what is the functionality of this enterprise branch, what is the functionality of this enterprise data center, how it will be connected to your service provider, right? And all these questions can be formed by using on this particular single diagram, right? If you consider, then we will move towards yes, in this campus infrastructure, right, the first module. So how this access layer, distribution layer, core layer and server farm are interconnected, right, and how these particular link redundancies are maintained in throughout the network, right? So the explanation is also given here: building access layer, distribution layer and the core layer, right? So you just go through it, right? And server farm model also, the how the high availability is maintained, right? That also can be a question. Then on enterprise edge model, that is second model, right? So we have these four models, sub models in it: e-commerce, internet connectivity, remote, WAN and man, right? So in that article also, so where actually this particular database server, application server, web servers are situated in edge distribution, right? So answer is your e-commerce model, right? Then the question may be asked, so where exactly this particular VPN and IPsec remote access will be take place? So the answer will be remote access and VPN model of your edge distribution layer, right? So likewise the question can be found on each and every diagram, each and every module, each and every functionality and each and every components, right? So you just must go through the all these contents, right, all these notes very carefully, right? You need to read all these things which are very important topics with respect to any kind of the examination. Either it will be MCQs or either it will be your theoretical one. Okay, so then after seeing this, we will go towards your security services within the modular networks, right? So what are the different services are there which will be useful in this modular network, right? So whenever I am telling you the modular network, that is nothing but your enterprise network, right? And in enterprise network I am using this SONA framework architecture, right, as well as my hierarchical network service model, right? So that's how we will be called as a modular network, right? So if you consider in this again in this particular SONA interactive service layer, right? So there are two layers, right? Infrastructure services is there, and again application networking services are there, right? So application networking services are embedded into your infrastructure services, right? And there are some different infrastructure services as well as there are different application networking services, right? So what are the different services are there? Then we will see here: security services, mobility, storage, voice, compute, identity services, which are nothing but your infrastructure services, right? And other one which would be embedded, that is network management, high availability, QoS, IP multicasting, right? So all these are nothing but your application networking services, right? So that also you need to kept in mind. You also must be kept in mind the functionality of each of the services, right? So how these particular services can be work under your enterprise under your SONA architecture or under your enterprise network, right? That you also must know, right? Then next concept is your security services in a modular network, right? So there are different whenever if you consider this campus infrastructure, right, again we are going through access layer, distribution layers, core layer and the server farm, right? If you consider this campus infrastructure, then how the security can be implemented, right? And for which layer, which security parameter you are using. For example, if you consider here for network management, I am using the authentication servers, OTP, ISPs, right? Because I need to get access of my particular server farm, right? For example, I have given you on in theory class that we need to get access of my 318 server, right, from my home, right? And for that I am using OTP based authentication for this particular server access, right? Then there is an next one is host based IDS, IPS. You can use private, freelance and all just configuration you can do on your server farm model, right? Then on your campus core you are not going to use any kind of this security here. Why? Because if you are using because you know already the functionality of this campus core, right? It will be using for uses for your high switching part, right? So if you are using any security here, then it will be slow down your networking speed, right? So that's why we are not going to provide any kind of the security services on campus core. So we are moving toward our distribution layer, right? So here you can use all the ACLs and all that things, right? So it will be manageable here. Then the next one is your access layer, right? So here you can use a port layer level security to your network, right? So in that way the security can be, you can integrate into this particular campus infrastructure, right? Then we will see how these particular external threats can be used for, used in this particular enterprise edge model, right? So if you check the external threats like IP spoofing, password attack, DOS attack, application layer attack, right, then you must know what do you mean by these particular attacks, right? So this question can be asked again. It will be important topic. Then again this particular diagram is important one, at which module which attack can be happen, right? The which are the different sub modules of this particular module, right? That can be also important topic, right? Then we will move towards this high availability. So how you are going to maintain this particular high availability in the server farm, because you know already high availability is nothing but the part of your any kind of the reliable network, right? So whenever you are telling anyone that our network is reliable, that means it must gives you an high availability 24/7 and all that things, right? And because if you wanted to made 24/7 your network, then what kind of thing you need to do is, then you need to do this particular single attachment you need to avoid. You need to do a redundant transceiver, you need to use redundant NIC card, you need to use fast internet ethernet channel or bundle you can use, right? Then root redundancy you need to do, port redundancy you need to do, then link redundancy you need to do, then power redundancy also that can be a part, right? So this kind of the thing you need to do. And from this particular all the diagrams you come to know how this particular redundancy can be useful in each and every part of the network, right? Then we move toward the voice services, right? So whenever a voice services are comes into the picture, then we must know the VoIP is there, then IP telephony is there, right? So there are a different components are there for IP telephony, that can be, you must know the IP phone, there switch and LAN power, cell processing manager, voice gateway, right? So in this particular diagram you must know there are a different 4 components are there. So where it will be situated and how this particular logical topology will be look like, right? So that also be you need to kept in consideration, right? Then after that we will see the different wireless services in modular network, right? So again there are different components for that. So if you see directly to this particular diagram, so we have wireless LAN controller, wireless access point, PCs, the switch and routed wired network, right? So each and every component is having its own functionality, right? So you must go for the functionalities of each and every component, then you come to know that how this particular wireless services will be used in this modular network, right? Then we will have this application oriented services. So this particular diagram also I have explained in a theory class, right? So how this particular WAN architecture will be look like, and how this remote offices, branch offices or can be used to connect with the regional offices, or used to connect with the data center, right, in a wide area network, right? So this is nothing but your the application networking services in a modular network. Okay, then Yes, and then the last topic we have covered, that is the network management protocol and its feature, right? So whenever the network management protocols I am telling you, then there is three mainly protocols. SNMP is there, Harmon is there, and MIB is there, right? So these are the three protocols we have seen. So SNMP undergoes into three versions: SNMP V1, V2, V3. Harmon is undergoes into two, Harmon 1, Harmon 2. MIB also undergoes into three parts: MIB 1, MIB 2, and the third one is nothing but your private MIBs, right? So which we called it as in Cisco's MIB. We have given Cisco MIB's example, right? And after that we also seen the CDP, that is Cisco Discovery Protocol, right? So which will be able to connect only the Cisco to Cisco devices, neighboring Cisco devices. It will be remembered, right? Okay, so one NMS is there, network management system will be there, and which will be useful for this all the orchestration for that different protocols and different devices, right, with the help of some MIBs, right? So if you consider this particular diagram for that, then protocol, then you must know what are the different protocols are there, and what are the different types of there, and what are the different functionality of each and every types, right? So you must know advantages and disadvantages of each and every protocols. For example, what is the advantages of SNMP1 over the SNMP2 and SNMP3, right? What is the disadvantages of SNMP2? That's why SNMP3 is evolved, right? So what is the main functionalities of SNMP3, right? That also you must know. What are the components of this particular SNMP? Then what is the difference between MIB1, MIB2 and Cisco's MIB? What is the difference between Harmon 1 and Harmon 2, right? And which one is the better out of these particular three network protocols and standards, right? That also you must know. Okay, so what are the different messages comes under SNMP V1? What are the different messages are comes under SNMP V2, right? What is the purpose of this SNMP V3? That you must know. Okay, then yes, in Harmon 1 and Harmon 2, what are the different groups are there, right? So in Harmon 1 total there are 10 groups, in Harmon 2 total there are 9 groups, right? So Harmon 1 is on which layer it will be working. So it will be working on physical and data link, and Harmon 2 it will be working on higher layers, right, from network to application. That also you must know. Okay, this particular diagram you must know. So this is your nothing but the Harmon 1 groups, and this is Harmon 2 groups, and both groups are working together with the help of this MIB, right? And MIB structure is IOS ORG dot internet management MIB2, right? The net flow is be useful for to analyze the traffic between the Cisco devices, right? Okay, so these are the some applications of that net flow that also you must gone through. Okay, and the CDP that I already told you, there are a different information under this particular CDP, and how it will be works. It will be just identifying a different Cisco based neighboring devices, right? And it will be used as a hello based protocol, right? So this also the important topic. And the last one is your syslog. Okay, so it will be nothing but the message reporting tool with the help of some you can used, and this is nothing but the structure of syslog, right? The first one is your sequence number, second one is your timestamp, then this percentage one is there, then these are the thing with the explanation of this particular command, right? So all these thing you must know. Okay, all the explanation is already given here, so you just go through it. Okay, yes, then this is your architecture of syslog, right? How the syslog can be worked. Okay, and it will be used one syslog analyzer tool, which will be helpful for generation of your what we can call visualization part, right? So it will be really very good part that you can visualize all the logs, and you can understand very easily with the help of some dashboard and all that things. Okay, so this is all about your chapter number 2. Okay, so I have just explained you, briefed you about chapter number 1 and chapter number 2. Okay, so what are the different uh, important topics are there which can be used for your question framing, right? So if you go through this, right, so so there are some important topics I already told you. Okay, so go through it and check whether you can form, just do a reverse engineering. Okay, whether you have used, you have create any question from you can create any question from whatever you have read, right? And you can do this, it will be help you, right, while giving the test tomorrow. Okay, so I hope you will understand, or some brush up is done from my side, right? So you need to go through all these two modules, right? If you have any doubt, then you can message me. Okay, so this is all about today, about chapter number 1 and chapter number 2 revision. Okay, thank you for joining.